The COVID-19 pandemic has induced some never-seen-before changes. Worldwide lockdowns, vacant offices, stay-at-home orders, and unprecedented human and humanitarian challenges. For organizations, the pandemic meant newer implications on work, workforce, and workplace. A very good evening to everybody present over here. On behalf of the OBHR committee, I welcome you all to the SPJIMR OBHR Conclave 2020. This year's theme is reimagining people management at the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic. The conclave will provide a platform for an enriching discussion on what are the changes that people management will witness in times to come. What will actually help organizations to drive through such uncertain times and to navigate the challenges of 2020 and beyond? And who better than the thought leaders from industry and academia to help us shed more light on this and to talk more about this? We have with us three special guests for the evening.
Our first speaker for the evening is Ms. Ritu Anand, Chief Leadership and Diversity Officer at Tata Consultancy Services, a pioneer in the field of human resources with an illustrious career spanning 30 plus years. Ma'am is leading diversity for the entire organization with a focus on creating more women leaders in the leadership pool. She has traveled extensively across the globe and has developed a framework for the cross-cultural workplace for TCS. Today, the diversity and inclusion function has moved a step ahead to become a strategic unit within TCS under her guidance. Under Ma'am's leadership, TCS has also been ranked as one of the top 10 companies for women to work in India and the UK. She is also the governing board member of the Forum for Women in Leadership that aims to bring together the collective aspirations, talents, and mentoring of women across corporate India. We welcome you, ma'am.
Our second speaker for the evening is Mr. Judhajit Das, the Chief Human Resource Officer at ICICI Prudential Life Insurance Company Limited. He started his career back in 1995 with RPG Group and has since then worked in multiple businesses from manufacturing to the services sector. After a stint at GE Capital, he joined ICICI in November of 2000. He has been leading the HR team at the company since August of 2005. He graduated in economics from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and is an alumnus of Exeleri Jamshedpur. We welcome you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
Our third speaker for the evening is Ms. Vasanthi Srinivasan, Professor OBHR and Chair Digital Learning at IIM Bangalore. Her research interests within HRM span women in management and boards, HRM in rapid growth organizations, etc. Ma'am has a wealth of experience in providing consultancy to both Indian and multinational companies in the field of leadership development. She has designed, developed, and delivered programs to build the leadership pipeline for organizations, including a leadership program exclusively for senior women leaders in business in collaboration with Catalyst India and IBM. Ma'am will be joining us shortly.
And not to forget, the session will be moderated by Professor Vineeta Dwivedi, Assistant Professor, Business Communication and Head, Digital Communications at SPJIMR. She has been a media industry professional with extensive experience in digital media, print journalism, radio broadcasting, and business development. She's an organizational and strategic communications expert, and she extends this expertise into management classrooms. We also have with us our faculty heads, Professor Sushmita Srivastava and Professor Amit Jain, who've constantly been our guiding light. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Without any further ado, I would now like to hand it over to Vineeta, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Niharika and Antara. That was wonderful. Sweet introductions, and that's what we need for a good start. I think this is our privilege. It's my privilege to be in this panel with such stalwarts in the human resource business industry. And also, you can see the audience is really looking forward to this session. We have almost 100 people already watching this live. And this is quite unprecedented because our students are constantly busy and online. So this is really good. Thank you everybody for joining us today. So I will start with you, Ms. Anand. And the obvious question, of course, I'm going to ask you. TCS is one of the largest companies in this country. And I was just checking, okay, you have offices in multiple countries, I thought. And then I saw it was 46 countries and 149 locations. That's amazing. I mean, we have been complaining about virtual classes, virtual meetings and webinars. How do you manage? How is this whole virtual teams happening?
Thank you for having me. And like Jeet says, I've been telling you and I'm telling those who are listening, it's a privilege. I wish it was in person, but nothing to complain. From the comfort of your house, you are talking to 100 of students. I'm not going to complain. Having said that, TCS, yes, the scale has been our pride for a very, very long time. Somewhere down the line, it started becoming an apology also that, you can't say that we can't do this because of scale or we can do this because of scale. So scale truly has been our pride, and technology has been our competitive advantage, I would say. Technology is a thread and an enabler which helped us do all what you are saying seemingly was impossible. So just to reiterate the numbers, yes, 114 nationalities, hundreds and thousands of locations that we work in. We are the most valuable company in the IT space in the world now. And with 467,000 employees, you can only imagine it is HR's delight as well as HR's nightmare. I am actually an accidental HR. Jeet knows it. I am not as qualified like MBA HR people. I accidentally got into this thing through the psychology route. After just because I'm talking to students, I fondly I'm going to share offline topic that after I did my PhD in psychology, I said, I know what I don't want to do. I don't want to teach. I'm not good at teaching. So what can I do? And 30 years ago, it was the options were not that many. So accidentally, TCS happened to me without knowing anything what software, hardware is. I just, bumped into and got into the space. I didn't know what traditional HR means, what HR stands for, personal, nothing I knew. But what I had is what I'm leaving with all of you who are listening. I had intention. I had curiosity. I was sincere to the core. I was ready to work. And mind you, all this after I was married. So you can imagine that I'm not talking about joining TCS when I was young, 20-year-old or 22-year-old. No, I had taken 5 years to do my PhD in humanities. That's a kind of an average at that, at least it was an average time taken by humanities PhD. And after that, getting into it with all these 5 enablers, and I will repeat it any number of times anybody asks me.
Okay.
So this is the only competence that is required to succeed in professional space, and be it institution, be it academic institution, be it professional, public or private, doesn't matter. But these are the 3 things when I willingly got into an unknown zone called HR. And that proved to be very exciting. That is why I never changed any job in 30 years. And of course, IT had its own time, and TCS was growing because India was growing and India's story was growing. So India's story became such a powerful story after 2000 millennials came in. So that's another topic, this thing. But yes, I want to start my interaction with you is to say that in a diverse workforce space, in a culture, in a company where cultures were coming and going, in a company which was having a ethos of Tata's, with the integrity and value, thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do this, we have come a long, long way. And all my learnings, which I'm no stalwart, like I said, I'm accidental HR, but whatever I at all share with you, it is only based on my experiences, and I learn from my experiences.
Well, your experiences are very valuable. And, I have a feeling listening to you, Dr. Anand. I just realized that you have a PhD, that you would make an excellent teacher, whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a try.
Yes, we'll call you sometime. I have a number of my faculty colleagues here in this session. They are all listening, and you might get a call anyway. Mr. Das, can I come to you now? And ICICI Pru Life Insurance is also a huge company in India, a leader in life insurance. You also have, what, thousands of employees. How have you managed these virtual teams?
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity and pleasure to be here. And as I said, it's a privilege. And we learn a lot from you, Ritu, right? So you're a great teacher. So teaching is not about, if students learn from you, then you're a good teacher. That's the more important thing, right?
Yeah.
If I tell you, one time I took a class, I couldn't hold the students for 1 hour, please. So I'm absolutely scared.
So you're a good teacher for maybe corporates, for young management trainees.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so COVID has been challenging, right? I mean, it's not been easy, but insurance is an essential service. So we have to keep our branches open.
Yes.
Because we have money, we take money from policyholders. And if they have claims or they need their money, many of them are not digitally savvy, because we are not, of course, we are an Indian company. We are a part of ICICI and Prudential. Prudential is a global company, but we have branches in tier 3 cities, places, small towns, and not everybody there is digitally savvy, though everybody's using smartphones nowadays. So to that extent, people do come to the branch. In fact, 96% of the customers who have a claim actually want to come to the branch. They don't want to submit it digitally. They actually
said 95%.
96% of all claimants come to the branch for the claims, because see, it's a, you want to make sure all the paperwork is okay. We have the option that you can upload all the documents digitally, right? And submit your claim. But people prefer to come to the branch because somewhere I think they also need human contact. During COVID, of course, we offered them that we'll do a document pickup from their residences because it's a difficult period.
Yes.
And that's something we also do for, very elderly people. But coming back to the virtual teams issue, so there are two things I want to break it up. One is, of course, given that customers were not willing to meet salespeople, right? And they still have to sell policies. We have to still do things. So we, in fact, we had collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams, which we implemented, which allowed our salespeople to interface with customers and guide them on the sales process. Because the good thing is, all the digital enablement that we had put in place since 2012, 13, and these were all in place. So we were able
ICICI has a great digital infrastructure.
I hope you are a customer of ours and using it. So that's wonderful. We try to take pride that we spend. And of course, there is a lot of feedback that we also get about what's working, what's not working well. But we didn't have the last mile where while customers can buy digitally, we didn't have that process where salespeople could guide you through an assisted sales process digitally. So that was put in place. And that's working very well. I mean, it's a great platform, Teams, though we are using Zoom now, but it allows you to, as a salesperson, I can guide you through filling up the online journey, as we call it. Now, and of course, we've been working in whether Zoom or WebEx or Teams ever since. And while our branches are open and our offices are open and people can come to the branch and office if they want to work, we don't mandate it except for certain customer service teams which have to be there to serve the customers. And but I want to say with a caution, while it's working very well and I've got used to it and everything, I do think the value of physical interaction can never be replicated in a platform like collaboration platform like Zoom the reason being the 2-3 things. One is a lot of our responses are tuned in through body language, right? So it's you see facial expression, but it's not just the facial part of it. When somebody's sitting across the table having a cup of coffee, it's a very different kind of conversation, especially if you want to influence somebody or really empathize with somebody. And even if you are while there are platforms where You can, put up post-it notes like you would do in a, if a group of 6 people are sitting together to ideate on issues. Technically, you can use virtual mediums today. But really speaking, and maybe I'm old-fashioned,
it's not the
same thing, right? Yeah. As in people handwritten, put up the post-it notes, rub up the whiteboard. You can do that, but you can't see everybody at the same time.
You can't.
And that's that whole process, that human process is very valuable. And more importantly, I think, a lot of information in organizations flows through informal channels.
Yeah, the water cooler conversations.
The water cooler conversation, absolutely. So I think, or even, if I'm walking past somebody in my team and I see somebody looking down, I'll not be able to make out. See, right now, I'm only meeting people or talking to people with a prior appointment. It's scheduled in the calendar. This is not like there in office, you just pass somebody and catch up for 2 minutes. And that conversation is so powerful, right? Just checking in with somebody. That's what makes the human process, because people come to work, not just to work, right? They also come for their relationship needs, and they come for a sense of belonging. We all know that. That's a part of our motivation theories that we have all learned. And that is very fundamental and powerful, because people do need to have an emotional connection at work. And that, I feel, becomes very challenging in a remote working context. So my sense would be that over a period of time, we'll be flexible. It's like phygital. You have physical retail, you have Amazon, but you still go to the mall with our children to shop, to touch and feel things, maybe eat out. So sometimes you go to the bank because you just want to meet the banker, right? Not just necessarily want to do everything on mobile. So I think, while obviously more and more the flexibility is great, and it has great implications in terms of, commute time improvement, efficiency and all that. But effectiveness, if I look at it, I don't think for genuine empathetic conversations, for real ideation, brainstorming, I don't think platforms have developed. I don't know if they ever will, but I think the need for human-to-human contact is going to be very important. And so it's going to be a mix, is my submission, or the way I look at it. Or maybe I'm old-fashioned. I'm not cut out for.
No, I think we all concur, sir. I think we all agree that we do need to meet other people. But given that the situation is such that even if we want to, we are not able to, and I don't think it's happening for another 6 months, so to say. How, as a CHRO, as a head of an organization, whose one of the major concerns of your daily job is to look after the well-being of people who work in that organization, given that they are not able to meet with each other, how have you managed that? This must have been a challenge these last 9 months or so.
Right. So I'll share a few things. One is that, of course, the first immediate priority was to make sure that you had enablements for everybody. So the first 2 weeks went in just making sure that the VPN network was provided to people who had laptops. And in some cases, people had desktops. We had to procure all that. So we're a 14,000 people organization. It's not a big deal, but we were able to do it. But post that, the larger issues. So one is the physical health and safety. And I'm not delving into that, because there we are obviously, putting in place all the protocols, social distancing. We had an app, which in fact TCS have developed for us, which, you make sure that there is, if you come within 6 feet of each other, it'll have a buzzer. Air purifiers to kill corona, checking in, linkages with Arogya Setu app. All that is the part of the physical safety, masks, because all our customers are walking into the branches, and our front office executives are meeting customers. So you put a shield, you make them wear a mask, you put air purifiers, because they're safe. They have to feel secure at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, who knows which customer may be asymptomatic and carrying it, right? And so they're putting in a sense, they're putting, themselves at a little risk of catching the infection. But I think the larger challenge has really been around the stress it's created. Everybody's complained of long work hours. They've complained of blurring between work and life. I thankfully live very close to work, so I go to work every day. I like it. It's a distinction for me. Get ready, go to work. It compartmentalizes my life. A lot of people say work-life balance, but I don't see it that way. But I like the compartmentalization. I like the fact that when I'm at work, I'm fully at work. When I'm at home, I'm not doing work. Because it helps me have downtime, my personal time. And if you're sitting at home, a lot of people are logging at 7:30 and logging out at 11:30. They might not be working one day. But so I think it's created enormous stress. I think we then one of the things we have this mental health counseling support we give to colleagues. Many more colleagues availed of it, a lot of them women especially, because I think in Bombay particularly there was a challenge and across is that you don't have, you're not able to go out. That's a big itself. Living in, the second part is you have to do a lot of household chores and probably don't get support. Third part is the work is relentless. Even if you have connectivity at home, working in office because of bandwidth, a transaction may take 5 minutes to effect, but sitting at home it probably takes 8 minutes. And even the best bandwidth you give today, which is 1000 Mbps, with whatever GB you give, it is not robust enough to give you real-time experience that what a big pipe in office can give you.
Yeah.
So we found that it's therefore been very challenging mentally also, and people have taken to counseling, and there have been more occasions of nervous breakdowns and anxiety. I can't quantify it because these are obviously confidential, but I mean, I would say the last 9 months, there have been at least 700-800 people. It's a small base, 14,000. So that's almost like 5% of the population actually. I don't know if it's a good number, bad number, because I don't have relative comparisons of other companies. But we suddenly saw a spurt. I mean, it was maybe
mental health issues.
Yeah, mental health,
stress,
counseling.
anxiety,
Talking to a counselor just to someone to talk to.
To need that.
Probably. Yeah. So
we can ask Ritu ji this if she has had a parallel, in terms of what another company, a big giant company, 149 locations. Have you had the requirement of counselors?
Yes, in fact, we already had it. We, I want to just shift the conversation, complementing what Jeet has been saying, that the companies which have been doing, let me put this way, the foundation, have been building foundation on constant learning, listening to employees, and practices which are more individual based, but also creating a collective wisdom. They are the ones who did not get negatively impacted by this unprecedented pandemic that hit us from nowhere. It's not that we haven't seen downturns. In IT companies have seen in 2001, 3, 4, a financial crisis, and then they came up. A millennial crisis was another one, swine flu, and all those things will keep coming. So you can't really plan for these kind of crises. But companies which have been building their foundation on solid basis, some of this which I already said, and also ensuring that skilling is not just same thing rolling over, not what is required on the job, but parallel, but aspirational, but also a little different from what the job requires and what you find employees to be intending to learn. Of course, future and present and past all bundled up in one basket. Those are the companies have not been caught unawares. Yes, to say that numbers did go up, obviously, because everybody is not blessed with a single room, single device and peaceful environment. Everybody is not. And a company which we was hiring 50-60,000 students every year, they come from tier 3, 4, 5 cities, would never have seen a car or a train in their lives, and coming into corporate. They were provided safe haven in our several campuses. And suddenly we tell them to go home and take this laptop or take this desktop with you and we will transfer it and all, was a big thing. Women segment was another thing. Of course, this is all community driven, culture driven in India. We are global company, so we heard the same stories abroad also. And let us say this was one time which brought the world together, at least from the lens which I am sitting and looking at is, I just finishing when I call somebody in Chile and Uruguay in Latin America. She was going through the same experience as I was. What could an HR person have done to provide that kind of form or a level, same field to somebody who's in Chile and Uruguay and somebody who's in Japan and this pandemic, that is the positive I'm seeing.
That's the upside, yes.
That is the upside, and that is something which gave us an opportunity to learn and do something and be prepared for 2020 50 or 2020 100 or something.
Yeah, so the virtual teams actually help, Ms. Anand. I think that's a very valuable point that you're making. I would just like to welcome Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan. I think she's just joined us. If we can have her pinned as well, so we can say hello to her. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Hello. Good to be here, Vineeta.
Hello.
Hi, Ritu. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
And Mr. Judhajit Das is also here.
Hello.
And we've just
Hello,
been
ma'am.
talking.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. Same here. Yeah, Vineeta.
Vasanthi ma'am, we have just been talking about virtual teams, as you can expect. A conversation about HR and people management cannot start without mentioning the fact that we are all, we are doing this virtually, obviously. So I will just sum up very quickly what Mr. Das, who's also looking after a very big organization, about 15,000 people. One of the things that stood out in what he was saying was that although they have taken full care of their employees, but the lack of physical human-to-human interaction does affect the morale of the employees somewhere. And there has been a rise in the need for counseling, some treatment for anxiety, other things. Ms. Ritu Anand gave us a completely different view of this because she heads up an organization which is really vast, as in how vast can it get, really? She said 2.5 lakh people, right? No, 4.5 lakh people. Right? 4.5. Sorry, I got it like 50% wrong, huh? 150 countries, so massive. So what she is saying is that actually virtual teams helped her in one way that, somebody sitting in Uruguay, somebody sitting here in Mumbai can talk at the same time and we have the same challenges and learning from each other. So in a way, it also brought people closer together in a completely different way because now that we are like we have all of you in this panel. Otherwise, we would have to fly you in and then you'd say, no, Vineeta, this will take my 2 days away. I can't do this. So you know how it is also. So what is your take at it as an academic who researches this subject, who looks at it from that lens of where the future will go from here?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. I think the truth is somewhere in between. And as the months have unfolded, I think there has been a greater opportunity for us to kind of reflect on this. I wrote a piece on the virtues of the virtual workplace. I think now I have to sit down and write the vices of the virtual workplace. Okay, so that's the kind of change that has happened in the last few months. So let me just quickly summarize because I think they're both making some very interesting points. So has it been able to flatten the organization? Yes, it has. Has it created a completely new set of networks, particularly for those people whom large organizations or small organizations have traditionally ignored? The quiet people, the self-managed people, the women, persons with disability, people who are shy, people who are not the kind who will aggressively go out and, have the first say. All of these people, if they are self-managed, have benefited from the virtual workplace. No doubt at all. Okay. The second thing, and that is why I said the self-management piece is what we are missing. Again, self-managed people have been able to, and I heard the last piece of what Ritu was talking about, in some ways leveling the globe has happened very effortlessly and seamlessly for self-managed people. So, but the flip side to it has been for the people who are not self-managed. And that's a large number in traditional organizations who've used their power of informal networks, their charisma, and all the other mechanisms to actually be able to get work done. And there was a place for that in the old ways of working, which completely has gone. So I see, and as I'm presenting, I hear very senior leaders actually kind of finding it so difficult to navigate the transition. Okay, so difficult. And I remember as chairman of a public sector bank was telling me that, Vasanthi, I'm just feeling so suffocated. Because there was always an intern, there was always somebody who was technologically savvy, who was an expert, who I just had to pick up the phone and call. Okay, so I think that's a piece that we should not forget in terms of self-management. But on the other end, there is another very interesting piece, that productivity has gone up. We have become more efficient. But have we become more effective? I think only time will tell, and it may be 18 to 24 months before we see the impact of it, because a large part of innovation happens through serendipity.
Yeah, it will
which
just
is just
appear
walking
one
down.
day. Yeah.
You're just walking down, somebody you met, and they're saying, oh gosh, this client is complaining, blah, blah, blah. And then you turn around and say, oh, you also have the same problem. Oh, we also have the same problem. But you know what? We did this.
Yeah.
So the role of serendipity in lives of people, you know, those casual corridor conversations, which were enabling and positive. I think Judhajit must have kind of mentioned that is really that piece can be very disempowering, because I now have nobody to have those conversations with.
Yeah. And there are all kinds of people, like you're saying. I mean, I'm one of those people, like Jeet is as well, if I may say that we like going to the office and meeting people and having this distinction between work and home, which is now all a blur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, who are you meeting? I mean, I go into work every day, and who am I meeting? I'm meeting exactly 4 people from my team, because you're socially distanced and only so many people can come.
And no students, and you can't meet students.
Meet students. So, I mean, the question really is, what are the implications? Because quite honestly, nothing gets impacted today. But what's the cost of innovation, collaboration, or even just, you know, keeping renewal of individuals, because those are not happening in the training and development and learning and development and in the structured formal mechanisms that virtual work today makes happen. Yeah, let me pause there. Please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. It's wonderful listening to you, and you have so many lovely things to say. We'll come back to you, but you made a point about the virtues and vices of virtual teams. And one of the things that you talked about was diversity. You mentioned that it's probably easier for women or people with disability to work in a virtual environment. It is for so many reasons. So I'll go back to Ms. Anand again. Has that been the case in your organization? Have you felt that? What would you say?
Actually, all my last couple of years, to be specific, or maybe a little more, I've been trying to see, these are the waves. First 10 years of my life, I distressed and detested the fact if somebody called me a woman at workplace. I'm a professional. You hired me for my competence or my whatever. So treat me like this. Don't treat me like a woman or a man. But next 10 years, I said, no, actually, women are different. They do have the highs and lows. They do have to take a milestone break. They do have to have the cultural infusion which is bothering them, and the weight of that community norms and all. So they are different. So I did a lot of stuff in the organization for next 10 years to provide them level playing field.
Yes.
But now in the last couple of years, I'm going back to the first decade when I want to create an equitable, I want to stop talking about equality. The narrative is now changing, and I want to be blazing the trail that equality is not what is needed. It is being fair. For a 6 feet man, you need a smaller stool. For a 4 feet man or a woman, you need a larger stool. Just visually imagine that.
Yeah.
That is the definition of equity. And that champions of equity is what I am creating. And my first champion of equity had to be my CEO. You are very stalwarts in education. I want to tell you, many books told me, even in psychology when I was doing research, and in my conversation with people like Jeet, that in management fundas, if you don't have management support, visible support, you cannot push the change in behavior. But I used to defy this. I said, no, if something is right, and if something is right, it will happen. But no, you become wiser only with experience. When you have visible management support, then the change just happens. All the frameworks go away. And that delight and that effectiveness which Professor Vasanthi sir, when you spoke about, happens like this, virtual or in person, doesn't matter. So when your CEO became your champion of equity, oh my God, you had millions taking the pledge for being an equitable. And once you have publicly put out your pledge, you have no choice but to be
follow that up.
Inclusive leader. I'll pause here.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Das, same question I'm bringing to you. Do you think this whole pandemic, the way that we are moving to virtual world, will it enable better diversity in workplaces? Do you think it works? Is it a variable now?
I think so. So I would see, because one of the reasons that, and I'm talking of women at work here,
yes, okay,
that a lot of women for their life stage needs opt out because commute is a big challenge.
Right.
Work from home gives you that flexibility to be efficient. So to that extent, that flexibility will definitely support life stage transitions, whether ill health or you need to take a break, or just being a caregiver at home. I mean, whether you're a man or a woman, you might need to be a caregiver at times, or whether it's children or aged parents or whatever be the circumstances. To that extent, or the flexibility, what we have realized now, it doesn't matter whether you're living in Andheri or living in, my office is Prabhadevi, right? Or whether you're living next to Prabhadevi. We could be in Nichal Karanji or Calcutta or Coimbatore for all I care. It doesn't matter, right? So, for example, if you have to take a break to go to where your support system is, maybe, and you cannot operate from the home city, I think organizations will be far more relaxed about this. Because if you ask me, prior to pandemic, do you imagine that everybody will work from home? I would have said impossible.
No, nobody would have agreed.
Have imagined it,
nobody would have agreed. No management would have agreed.
Yeah, and it was important to be present.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges that often career women find it is because they have to get back home, and a lot of the informal socialization that happens at work is after office hours. And that is a problematic situation, right? The second part is championing. If you're not present, who will champion you? So it's like, I mean, after evening, if people go out for a meal, and because you have to go back home, you're not able to go out for a meal. You're not doing the informal socialization. That's where relationships get built. And if you're not able to participate, and you might call it fair, unfair, I'm not getting into that. But I'm saying the real world, whether you're a man or woman, ultimately everybody needs a champion for career growth. Right? And people champion you not only because you're competent, but also because they have chemistry and relationship with you, right? At some level where they trust you. And the whole part of trusting somebody, which is the original point, while Professor Srinivasan talked about, collaboration and innovation, but I go back one step. A lot of it is about trust. And trust, how do you build trust when you don't really meet the person? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it will be definitely a positive for I don't think I mean, to make it more equitable, perhaps. I mean, I don't think we've solved the riddle of equity, because solving the riddle of equity means, essentially, at a fundamental level, it means that if somebody has to take a break for rearing children, whatever you define, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever you define as a time period, your career growth will not get impacted. That for an organization to say that, because most organizations have a tenure-based promotion policy, and if you're not, so one is that you're physically, I mean, while you may not be physically present, you're at least remotely present, but the larger issue of equity needs to be still, I think, resolved.
Looked at, I'll pose the same question to Professor Srinivasan, but with a slight twist. I'm sure you must have read last month there was a news story.
Ritu is just waiting to go. I can see her like body language.
Oh, sorry.
Say something. So till she does that, I will wait it out.
Okie dokie. Sorry. Yes. I was looking at Jeet.
Jeet knows me, but I have learned very cautiously to control myself. Sorry. I just wanted to say that this is an opportunity for management or leadership or specifically HR to quickly craft new policies or practices of engagement, attachment or detachment, which way you look at it. This is an opportunity. We are already 6 months late.